As we close the book on Maryland and turn the page towards Purdue, there's one big thought in my mind. The issues the Buckeyes had last Saturday against Maryland might not be issues this coming Saturday when the Buckeyes play the Purdue Boilermakers.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Wednesday, October 11th in the year 2023, and today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's Jase medical.com. During today's episode, we will discuss if history will repeat itself Saturday afternoon in Ross-Ade Stadium. And it's time for our stock watch. Stock up, stock down. It's back. But first, as I think about what's in front of Ohio State going forward, a game against Purdue on the road, a home game against Penn State, a road game against Wisconsin, a road game against Rutgers, home against Michigan State, you got Minnesota, and then you got a road trip to Ann Arbor. As I think about the rest of the season, especially with the Buckeyes getting ready to embark upon their 6th game of the season, we're literally in mid-season right now. And there's a good chance some of the issues the Buckeyes had this past week might not be issues this coming Saturday. And many of you know when you're the part of the Everyday Club, and I greatly appreciate you joining that exclusive group. It's an exclusive group that anybody can join. If you want to join it, go right ahead. It's free. There is no admission to be a part of the Everyday Club here at Locked On Buckeyes. But one thing we know about myself and the way that I cover the Buckeyes, there are some issues that have been issues even going back to training camp and even going back to spring practice that keep coming up at this part of the season. And one thing I am reminded of is 2020. As odd as 2020 was, there's one player in mind, and it's not an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman or a guy who was recruited by Ohio State, committed to Ohio State, and was in his 5th year in Columbus. It was a young man by the name of Trey Sermon, who is now in the NFL, who transferred to Ohio State in between the 2019 and 2020 seasons and was learning the offense, was trying to figure things out in Columbus. And as wacky and as odd as the running game was that season, once Trey Sermon figured things out, and it's not figuring out the playbook, that's not the thing that we're discussing figuring out. It's sometimes the pass protection and the pass blocking and pass pro. Once he figured those things out and his communication with the offensive line got better. Once he figured out, hey, this is how we operate with this offensive line, not the O-line from Oklahoma where he was at previously, but the Buckeyes offensive line, which was a new thing in that season. And so we think about how odd it was and not having a traditional offseason, no spring practice, the summer workouts were different, no traditional training camp, all of those things leading into that season, including not really thinking there was going to be a season for Ohio State. Yeah, if you're in the South listening to this, you're saying, well, we knew the SEC, it just means more. They understood it. But Trey Sermon that year, when he got into mid-season form, which happened to be the end of the season due to the cancellations and the shortened season there for the Buckeyes and Big Ten and everybody else. Once Trey Sermon got in mid-season form, he didn't look back. He didn't go back. He didn't retreat. It was moving forward, breaking Big Ten and Buckeye records, and then all of a sudden, if he didn't get hurt, he could have had another big game in the national championship game. And I reminded of Trey Sermon when I think about this Ohio State team. There are some issues that we see. I was listening to some other podcasts. Some people discuss the issues with the linebackers, and some people, I've been listening to part of the Ryan Day, Jim Knowles presser today. Some people are saying CJ Hicks, has he earned more reps? And one thing Jim Knowles said was, hey, Cody Simon, let's not forget him. These aren't word for word what Jim Knowles said. He said, yeah, CJ Hicks has earned some time. Is he ready to play? Yes, he's ready to play, but so is Cody Simon, and Cody Simon has earned playing time. So there's a lot of things going on to, hey, the LBs aren't playing well, but then Jim Knowles realizes there's somebody else that has earned playing time as well. LBs are playing good. As consistent as you would like, that's a different conversation. But my thoughts are with the O-line and the running game and some of the things and some of the issues with when it comes to getting to the quarterback, not getting in his face. That's there. Not deflecting passes. That's there. But simply getting there, getting home, and getting sacks. Some of those things, as we turn the page towards Purdue, game 6, 7, 8, and 9, what are we going to see? Potentially the Buckeyes against Purdue, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Rutgers turning the page and literally being in mid-season form and saying, hey, there were some things that were issues games 1 through 5. Game 6 on does not have to be an issue. Why? Because you're figuring things out. And I am trying my best to be as optimistic with some of the issues the Buckeyes have at this point in time. I understand Ross-Ade Stadium can be a weird place to play. Honestly, it's a benefit for the Buckeyes for this to not be a night game, because that would be a whole nother can of worms and a whole nother nightmare for some people out there. Because, man, let me tell you, the last time I was around Purdue football players, Big Ten Championship 2022, my wife and I were there at the game, and it was a row of Big Ten students, Purdue students right in front of us. Obnoxious, drunk. One cat was actually drunk and asleep before the game even started, but there was a couple. It was one really that I remember right now. I don't remember his name. I just know that his eyes were, he could barely keep his eyes open. But man, loud, obnoxious. And you get that at Ross-Ade Stadium at night against Ohio State, knowing that they want to repeat 2018. Wait, we don't want that. We don't want that. So I know that sometimes Indiana fans don't have a good reputation by some Buckeye fans. Look, that Purdue Boilermaker crowd's a different crowd, especially when they've had all day to put that liquid courage into their system. Things can change. This is a great opportunity for Ohio State. A 12 noon game on Peacock. Now, I don't know who the broadcasters are. I got to look into that and see who they are. I'll discuss that later in the week, as I normally do, to give you a heads up about who you're going to be hearing broadcast this game. My guess is it is probably Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge again. I don't think Jack Collinsworth and Jason Garrett will be on the call this game, because Notre Dame is at home against NBC, and this is a Notre Dame broadcast. So I do believe the Notre Dame broadcast has the Notre Dame game on NBC, and I do believe this game is a Peacock game. Probably Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, confirm that later in the week. One thing I hope we can confirm is that the Buckeye, well, not confirm, we'll see, is improvements by Ohio State, taking strides in the right direction to be better overall on the O-line. Kyle McCord helping the O-line out by simply staying where he's supposed to be. So the O-line, while they're blocking, is looking over and saying, why is Kyle there? Why is he not where he's supposed to be? And doing what we're doing and following our lead to protect him and keep him in the pocket. Keep him upright, excuse me. Not always in the pocket, but to keep him upright. Running game, and that's not just running backs and O-line. That goes into the tight ends or receivers, the play calling, everything involved. We could see there's a possibility of seeing a Buckeye team on Saturday that is taking strides in the right direction to be better and to improve their play throughout the rest of the season. Coming up next, you see it there in the graphic on the YouTube. Will history repeat itself? This is not just a 2018 conversation, but it's a conversation that goes throughout the history of Ohio State coaches. We'll discuss what I'm talking about next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Jase Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code locked on. Thank you for tuning in and listening to and making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. This Saturday, your Ohio State Buckeyes play the Purdue Boilermakers Saturday afternoon at 12 noon Eastern. Catch every snap of the Buckeyes hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Buckeyes. Will history repeat itself? Normally, when people think history repeating itself in this context, in this week, the conversation might be surrounded by, well, will we get a repeat of 2018? I sure hope not. But if we do, that might be a recipe for a nightmare for many Buckeye fans and a sense to party if you're a Boilermakers fan listening to this show. 2018 was the last time these two teams played in West Lafayette at Ross 8 Stadium. The Buckeyes, 5 years earlier, played in West Lafayette at Ross 8 Stadium November 2nd, 2013 to be the exact date. The Buckeyes shut out Purdue 56-0. Yeah, the season should have been a lot more special than it actually was, and I'm still a little upset with some of the way that the season ended because, well, even though I don't think the Buckeyes would have beaten Florida State that year in the BCS National Championship, would have been fun to see the Buckeyes at least win all their games and make the BCS poll, force themselves to put them in that thing. I know it's a computer, but Ohio State still holds weights in the computer. But 2018, the last time these two schools played each other at Ross 8 Stadium, oh man, I remember this night. I didn't go to the game. One of my buddies did. I get on Facebook. He's having the time of his life. Purdue won this game 49-20. And I think in that game, Dwayne Haskins had his career high in passing attempts in that game. I think he had over 50, maybe even 60. It was some absurd number. But that was what Purdue got up, and all Ohio State could do to try to get the lead was pass. That was it. And when I think about history repeating itself, I went back and looked at the history of the rivalry in games that were played in West Lafayette and Ohio State coaches and how they fared in this game. Now, I didn't go through all the coaches, but I went back to Paul Brown, the first Buckeyes coach to win a claimed national championship. There's claimed, there's unclaimed, there's a lot of stuff out there. Paul Brown never played in West Lafayette, Indiana. Never. But from every coach, from Woody Hayes, who coached at Ohio State from 1951 to 1978, all the way through Urban Meyer, who retired from coaching at the college level in 2018, every coach from 51 to 2018 that took a road trip to West Lafayette, Indiana, lost at least one of those trips. Now, there was a lot of them that played multiple times in West Lafayette and maybe only lost once, and John Cooper, who lost the final year that he coached in Columbus in the year 2000, lost that game. Let me get the exact score. Lost that game 31-27. So it's not a good way to go out when you're losing, and John Cooper was that era I didn't live through. I was alive. I wasn't a Buckeye fan yet, so I'm glad. Oh, man. Part of me is glad I didn't have to endure that the way that we are enduring I endured the day years or the some of the urban. I'm not saying these are bad years, but I was not riding. My emotions were not riding with every Buckeye play and every Buckeye tick and second when they're on the field, not like they do right now. Woody Hayes lost to Purdue and West Lafayette in 1960 and 1978. Earl Bruce coached in Columbus from 79 to 87. He lost in West Lafayette in 1984. Already mentioned John Cooper. Jim Tressel, one of my favorite Buckeye coaches of all time, if not the favorite, lost in West Lafayette twice in 04 and 09. Luke Fickell only coached 1 year. It was a year in between the Tressel year and the Urban year. Luke Fickell, the interim head coach, he lost his only trip to West Lafayette, played at Ross State Stadium in 2011. Then Urban, I just mentioned it, don't want to think about that ever again. Here is why I ask, will history repeat itself? I don't believe this will be the only time that Ryan Day takes a team to West Lafayette. Even though it's his first time, the first time does not have to be a loss, but it has to be a question that you ask. West Lafayette, Indiana, even people in Indiana know West Lafayette is probably not a place you're going to go in general. Now, my wife went there recently, I think earlier this summer. A lot of fun things to do there, but still, it's a college town. And sometimes spooky things happen at Ross State Stadium. If you're a Buckeye basketball fan, hey, Mackey Arena is a weird place. I've been in there, 14,000 fans at capacity. It's sold out all the time. It's a loud, raucous crowd. And you know what? They not only have a streak of having sellouts, they have a streak of winning lots of games. And even the Buckeyes, unfortunately, during the COVID and that NCAA tournament that was played inside the state of Indiana, all the games were. What did we find? The Buckeyes lost to Oral Roberts, got upset in Mackey Arena on the campus of Purdue University. So when I think about history repeating itself, I understand how spooky it might be for a lot of people that we think, oh, athletics, football or basketball, that's a weird place to play. And sometimes the really good teams go there and have issues. 2018, I can't say 2011 was a really good team. 09, there's some really good teams out there, man, that just struggle playing here. Here's why I don't think history will repeat itself. Y'all are waiting for the caveat and for Jay to turn the page and get on the positive track and be a little bit more optimistic. Here is where my mind is right now. This defense travels. Throughout all of the issues the offense has had this year, throughout all the issues with the running game, for the inconsistent play at times by the offense, one thing we know is true about this team. Week 1 on the road, that defense traveled to Bloomington, Indiana, only gave up 3 points. Week number 4, that defense traveled to Notre Dame, Indiana, and what did they do? Only gave up 14 points. My gut tells me, and as Jim Knowles discussed Hudson Card and his big arm, the arm that he has, and the ability he has to throw the football, here's what I believe to be true. If there are issues on offense, running the ball, and some of the same issues the Buckeyes have had offensively all season long, not saying that they are going to be there, but if they have some of the same issues, the consistent issues they've had all season long, put your faith and your stock in that defense. Tui Malowau, Tyleek Williams, Michael Hall Jr., they're busting heads all day long. Eichenberg and Chambers are going to make it hard for Purdue's offense. And I got faith in all 5 or maybe all 6 of those DBs that will play in this game. Why? Because the defense is good. The defense is making it hard for opposing teams to throw the football. And the defense travels throughout all the offensive issues. I believe you can trust that Buckeyes defense. You can ride with that Buckeyes defense. And I do think, hey, maybe history will repeat itself down the road, and maybe Ryan Day will play another road game in West Lafayette, and maybe that will be a loss down the road. I'm not saying it's going to, but it can happen. But I think this year, in a few days, I think this defense will make a statement once again. When we come back, stock up, stock down, the stock watch is back. I gave you a little hint earlier that Fox will be in this in one portion of the show. How or where will they be? We discuss that next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select players' projections up to 25% to provide even more value. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Thank you once again for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. It's time for the stock watch. Stock up, stock down. It's back on a hump day a couple days prior to Friday the 13th. Had to throw it in there because it's reality and spooky things might happen on Friday night. Stock up, stock down. Let's get right to it. Stock up on Josh Proctor. It's like a broken record. Didn't expect this play from this young man. But every week he's on the field, he continues to have and show me he is having a career season with the Buckeyes. They're going to need him big this week, next week, and going on throughout the rest of the season if the Buckeyes want to accomplish every goal they have set for the team this year. First one beat the team up north. Second one, win the Big Ten championship. Third one, win the Natty. Those are all three goals, and if the Buckeyes want to accomplish all three, Joshua Proctor is going to need to continue to play the way that he has been this season. Stock up on Jim Knowles. Now, I heard this number. Don't know if it's exact, but I heard over the weekend there were 47 dropbacks by Maryland. There were only 7 blitzes by Ohio State that Jim Knowles called. And people heard, and there was a conversation in a narrative that when Jim Knowles came from Oklahoma State, Stillwater, Oklahoma, to Columbus, Ohio, that, man, it was his defense. It was complicated. It's a 4-2-5. It's where Ryan Day wanted to go anyway. But also the blitzes and the blitz packages are going to be wild, crazy, and confusing for the opposing quarterback. And what have we found? Buckeyes not doing as much cover zero as previous. The Buckeyes only rushing 3 at times, only rushing 4 consistently. And we're seeing Jim Knowles adjust and adapt to the teams that the Buckeyes are playing, but also adapting to the personnel in Columbus. This stock up is for Jim Knowles because I believe he's the right man for the job. And I hope over the next 3 to 5 years, his first contract was 2 years, I believe. Extend him. He's bringing in good players. And for you to come in, we're at a school where you may not understand truly what it means to be a Buckeye coach, but you learn quickly that if things don't go well, people will look at you a little bit sideways. And he has quickly said, hey, I don't care if these are my guys or Day's guys or maybe some of Urban's guys. I don't care. I'm going to come in and coach my guys up like I have my entire career. And Jim Knowles has done a phenomenal job of coaching the defense this season, and I hope it continues going forward throughout the rest of the season. Stock up on ABC/ESPN and the way they call and broadcast their big games. Not just big games, but if you're like me and you watch some Wednesday night football, Tuesday night college football, some action for your life, Thursday, Friday, whatever it might be, there's a discrepancy with how well ESPN and ABC broadcast just college football versus other networks. And then when you get to the big games, knowing this was Fox's big game of the weekend, and then also, I turn over to primetime, ABC, ABC, no matter if it's Fowler and Herbstreit on the call, or maybe Sean McDonough or Joe Tessitore or whoever it might be, Bob Wischusen, whoever it might be. They do a phenomenal job of just the broadcast itself, but also with pumping in the crowd noise. I'm going to go to stock down really quickly. I was not pleased with the way the broadcast went this past weekend. It seemed off. It seemed odd. The noise seemed a little bit weird. Gus and Joel didn't sound exactly like they had previously. Maybe I was just blinded by my own appreciation for how well they are as a team. I don't know, but just something about Saturday's broadcast seemed a little off. I even thought this during the NBC broadcast. Notre Dame, Ohio State just didn't discuss it at that time. It was my first NBC Big Ten game, and I don't really watch many Notre Dame games consistently. So normally Ohio State's playing, so I can't really watch all the Fighting Irish games that I want to. But that was just odd, man. Like I had a greater appreciation for Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler in that Saturday's game when they weren't even calling the game, just because they do a phenomenal job. And that game definitely felt like, give me Fowler and Herbstreit every day. And I wasn't a big Chris Fowler guy when he first got that job and promotion, but I have once again grown a bigger appreciation for him and how well he is, how good he is at his job. Stock down on the O-line and running game. This is going to combine it. The O-line is not all the O-line issues are some of the issues that people are saying that are on the O-line are not on the O-line. That does not mean the O-line is exempt from this conversation being a stock down portion of this show. I really wish going into the Youngstown State game or going into the Western Kentucky game, there was a conversation, maybe a thought, or maybe a sign on the field. Not really a thought or a conversation. I'm sure they've had those. Kind of wish they played somebody else at O-line, maybe at one of the tackle spots. But Ryan, I think it was Ryan Day said there was a drop off between the starters and the backups, which is why the starters are still on the field. So be it. Something's got to change, man. If you want to accomplish all your goals, well, you can't really accomplish a second one if you don't do a good job against Penn State, because that could derail you against Wisconsin. That could derail you in the future. I don't know, man. I don't know, but this O-line needs to fix. And the running game is just, I don't know what's going on. Like, even in 2020, the running game wasn't this bad. This is abysmal. This is bad. And this is not on the running backs. I don't believe that at all. A lot of it's on the O-line, but also call plays to help your guys out. If you realize your guys cannot get to the second level, how about you run an off-tackle play with a lead blocker? You ain't got to pull a lineman. Run a fullback in there. Throw a wrinkle at the opposition that will help your team move the ball down the field. Out of here on a Wednesday. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at JStevens07. Send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, on the Odyssey app, or wherever you get your fine podcast. Leave a comment in the YouTube comment section on this video. Smash the like button on this video. And also leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. It's a great free way to help more people come across the Locked On Buckeyes podcast. We're out of here on a Wednesday, Buckeye fans. I'll see you next time.